Welcome to PEAC, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls in sport. We're here to amplify your voice because it deserves to be heard. At PEAC, we are a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build community. We empower girls in sport and coaches with knowledge, resources, and support we think is necessary in today's athletic environments to thrive. Join us for bold conversations about experiences of girls in sport. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, cheer, get frustrated, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. So whether you're walking, commuting, or cleaning your bedroom, take us with you. Follow us. Give us a 5-star rating. It helps more than you can imagine. Check out our website and share with a female athlete or coach you love. Now, without any further delays, I want to introduce you to our next guest. Our next guest, Kelly Keefe, was a athlete of mine. I actually can't remember when she graduated, several years ago. Throughout her cross-country career, she also became a personal training client of mine, and she's going to fill you in on some of her journey there and why we started working together. Since graduating from college, she's also become a certified yoga instructor, and that is why I am so excited to have her here today to share her story. I love that she fell in love with yoga and that yoga has found a huge place in her home and in her heart. She also has a really cool event that she is hosting with yoga. I'm going to let her fill you in on all the details, but I saw that she was doing this and I'm like, this is somebody we have got to share on the PEAC podcast. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get warmed up. Are you ready, Kelly?
I'm ready.
Awesome. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyways. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Some beach or mountains?
Ooh, I'll have to go with beach. That one's hard though.
It is hard. Okay, road trip or plane?
Road trip every time.
I love it. So then maybe I'm going to ask you this one. 4-star hotel or camping?
Does glamping count?
I think so. I'm putting yes. Yes.
Then I would go glamping.
All right. And I'm really kind of curious about this. Taylor Swift or Beatles?
Oh, that's so tough. I'll have to go Beatles, but I love me some T Swift.
I love it. See, you're the perfectly well-rounded person. I absolutely love that. So thank you so much for being here, taking the time out of your workday. You are in corporate America now, like a real job, which is so exciting. I want to get to know all of that. But before we kind of dive into where you're at now, will you take us back and just talk to us about your connection to sport? Maybe starting in middle school and migrating through high school.
Totally. So yeah, I have a bit of a crazier story with sports. I was born with scoliosis, spina bifida, which is all spinal issues. And I knew from probably the age of 6 or 7 that I was going to need a spinal fusion. Didn't know how large, didn't know what that was going to be, but it was just inevitable. And I did not want that to stop my growth within the community of sports. So I actually started playing basketball in the age of like 4th grade, around like 2007. And it became my biggest passion up until around 2012, 2013. And I actually one day at University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, I threw my back out tying my shoe at a half court. And it was really unfortunate, but I was bedridden, bedbound for quite some time up until November 13th, 2013. And I had half of my spine fused into my hips. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. I had my favorite sport taken away from me. And then I ended up falling in love with the sport of cross country, which I started in 2014. after I had some recovery. I couldn't do any contact sports anymore. I couldn't do a ton of high impact sports anymore. So I knew that the cross country team at Libertyville High School was so wonderful, filled with so many women who coached. So I gave it a shot. And from 2014 to 2017, I ran cross country and then fell in love with the art of yoga all at the same time with actually Anne Marie. She would come in on Fridays and help us out with some yoga. And that's really when I fell in love with it and started doing hot intensive yoga, even with my spinal fusion. So it kind of just beat the odds of what I thought I could do. I thought I was going to lose 50% of my mobility, and I actually gained so much more than that through the art of yoga and through running, which was kind of crazy. And then it became my passion all throughout my life. And then recently I just got my up in 2024 March. I just finished up my yoga certification and I now teach at Melt Pilates and Hot Yoga, which I'm very honored to be there.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things in there that just make me smile from ear to ear. And some things that make me sad. I mean, when you can tell when you're talking about something that you love, the sport of basketball. And can I share that you had another connection to basketball besides
Of course.
you?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kelly also has a twin sister who was a basketball player, is a basketball player, played basketball. And you could tell that aside from them loving the sport individually, it was something that brought them joy together. And so I think that was something as a outsider looking in that was hard to see, is that you losing kind of this connection, not just with sport, but this connection to your sister. Did you feel that?
Totally. I mean, totally. That was like one of our biggest things that we did together. We did it every day. It was our love and our passion. And she ended up playing through college. And on her last basketball game, we were crying together because I was able to be a student assistant. I was very fortunate, wonderful program, DePaul University. And they allowed me to help with the team while she played. And so it was kind of like she was playing for both of us. And she would always say that was her why. And that was my why of being there too. Just that was our passion. And she was able to fulfill it for the both of us. And so when that ended, it was kind of the craziest thing ever. It was like, there was one of these pictures of her just sobbing and I'm in like my uniform, just, I'll never forget it. It was one of the craziest, most heartwarming, but wrenching things at the same time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to take something that was so meaningful to you and to her, and obviously then to your family, and to have such a pivot was remarkable to see. So, and the journey to cross country and yoga was not easy. There was quite a bit of rehab through your spinal fusion. Is that correct?
Totally. I mean, totally. I went from PC and then I saw you actually. You helped me a ton being able to create that spinal strength just through like those small mobility exercises that we did together. And those exercises went such a long way with my spinal fusion recovery. It almost doubled, like it went from, it was supposed to be 2 years and then it ended up being 6 months because I was able to find you. You really helped me through that. And with those, it was way healthier for me. It wasn't those high impact. And it was just showing me that even exercises don't have to be where you feel like you're going to pass out, that you can do things for your body just to help recover. So that helped me a ton.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I want to talk kind of about that recovery piece. So do you remember so back in high school, which I'm assuming was your first introduction to yoga, is that correct?
Yes, totally.
Oh, okay. So when you were first introduced to yoga, did you think that it was something that only old people did? Did you think it was something you did to try to fall asleep? Did you have, what was your connection to yoga and what is your connection to yoga now?
When I first heard about yoga and really started seeing it, I thought it was just a good old stretch. And then you went home, you didn't do much, you touch your toes, you reach over the sides, and then you called it a day. Like it was just a stretch that your coaches made you do before you went home,
Yeah.
And now it has completely transformed my way of exercise, not even just my physical body, but my mental body. I am in some of the best shape I've been in my life. And I'm not high impact obviously anymore. And trying to navigate that was so difficult. But then going back and going to melt Pilates and hot yoga, they taught me that that's a mental thing. You have to push yourself in order to keep going and to make it into a workout. And don't get me wrong, it's 100 degrees in that room every time we go in
Yeah.
there. So you're going to sweat no matter what. But seeing it now, it's just become such a vital part of my physical and mental exercise.
Yeah. And let's talk about that piece. Let's talk about, so it's interesting. I think people think of yoga as a stretch, and there are certainly components of yoga that, allow you to be flexible, or you can build flexibility. But even with cross country, I talk a lot about this. Cross country runner doesn't have to be flexible. They have to be mobile, right? They have got their
Totally.
joints have to be able to move, but they don't have to be ballerina flexible. So to me, when I started and was able to come into the high school to teach yoga, I mean, and that was Bill Etnier. Like, he was way ahead of the time to like recognize that girls in sport needed something to kind of connect mind body. I mean, he really was forward thinking there. But in order to bring yoga into a high school student, you can't talk about the mind body connection, exclusively, or, it feels a little like too almost like spiritual or too foreign. So there is conversations around, it helps your muscles. You are getting more flexible, but really kind of like burying little pieces that people could come back to that, it's important to slow the body down. It's important to slow the mind down, and it's important to be present and be where your feet are. So did you ever pick up on any of those subtleties, or was that something you discovered for yourself later on?
But definitely at first when me and you met and then started doing those Friday things, you could just tell immediately whether it was conscious or not. The mood enhanced, the different ways my body was feeling after enhanced. And then going forward and getting that education I finally got, I look back like I've been knowing this for years, but I just didn't have those tools or didn't recognize that I had those tools in order to see those subtleties and see that even if you see it as a stretch, you are doing so much deeper work within your body that you don't even realize. So I definitely
Yeah.
was unconsciously aware, but now with my education that I received, it's like I look back like, hello, it's always been there. You just never realized.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think some of it is, what is, appropriate for, an age type of thing. So talk to me about your certification process. What made you do it? What are your hopes with yoga? And then fill people in on what you're doing with the shelter for the dogs.
Oh yeah, totally. So I actually got into a pretty bad car accident in December of 2023 or January of 2023. And then I didn't know what to do. PT wasn't working. I had really bad neck strain, back pain again. And one of my coworkers introduced me to this new yoga studio again. I was from Libertyville. I moved towards the boony area of the state of Illinois. And I was a little lost and I needed a community, and my coworker introduced me to his wife who owns Melt Pilates and Hot Yoga. And she was the one that had me come in and just start with Pilates and help me build my core strength. And then she introduced me to her, like one of her head teachers there. Her name's Agnes, and she's incredible. And she made me fall in love again. And you meet so many people in there. And even from that point, the community that this woman owned business showed me, I wanted to be a part of it. I drank the Kool-Aid. I want to be in here. And then after that, I was like, I need to get into great shape. I need to mentally be stronger. And I was telling this to Agnes, and she told me teacher training will change your life, whether you want to be a teacher or not. Just learning the art of yoga and the history of yoga and why we do yoga is so important if you want to enhance your own practice. So going from there, it was 3 days a week from 4 to 5 hours a day. and did it for quite a few months. It ended up being longer because I got hit again in another car accident. But that second car accident actually, with all the resources I had, made my recovery so much faster than I thought. And don't get me wrong, I had some neurological issues, but my body kind of bounced back faster. If I didn't have the yoga that I did have, it would have taken me about a year to recover again. So I got very blessed in that element. And so then I got into yoga, and now it ignites my passion. I have so many folks from around the community coming in that yogi's meant for crazies who can put their foot over their heads. And I just say, no, everyone can do it. You just have to be open-minded to the whole idea of yoga, because being in uncomfortable situations is one of the bases of yoga. It's okay to be uncomfortable in new spaces. It makes you grow as a person. So then I actually work for a car dealership, Brilliant Subaru in Elgin. And at Brilliant Subaru, we're able to do dog adoption events all the time. I bring in adoptable pets every Tuesday, Friday from Anderson Humane in South Elgin. And with all of my favorite elements of animals, I love my job, and I love yoga, I was able to have the idea with my boss, Shannon Tampa, that we should do puppy yoga, and which is so fun. And they're all going to be adoptable puppies. And it's going to be we have a dog park as well at our dealership, which is I'm very blessed to have. And it's beautiful. It's not just a fence and gravel area. It's a huge yard with beautiful trees. And we're very fortunate enough that I was able to grab that space, and we're going to have a big fundraiser and have puppies and just enjoy. And it's going to be in the summer, and it might be a little toasty, so we might get some hot yoga action in there. So I'm really excited about it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Talk about all your passions. Like, you're passionate about your job, and you're passionate about animals, and you're passionate about yoga. And, thinking outside the box, you're like, okay, what can we do to incorporate all these things that I love, but also to give back to community? When I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely brilliant. And the fact that the puppies then can be adopted is amazing.
It was just like an extra splash. So we can make him adoptable. I'm like, yes, please. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely amazing. And I like that you kind of keep circling back to the different tenets of yoga that, anybody can practice yoga, and, yoga is for everybody, and that getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is, part of the practice. It doesn't matter what the shape looks like, right? It's settling into breath, and it's settling into a shape and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because I think you're exactly right. In life, that is such an important skill set. Sometimes we brush over the uncomfortable, and I'm wondering if it's because we sweep it under the rug and we don't talk about it. But I wonder if it was something that really connected to you because at a very early age, you realized that at some point you were going to have this radical surgery. And, you've not dove into the details, but I have to imagine much of your days and much of your life was uncomfortable.
Yes. It was almost a constant state of pain. It was either sitting or standing, walking. Most of my life, I've always been exactly set in those uncomfortable situations because of my physical pain. So doing something uncomfortable for me isn't that foreign. I kind of love it. Obviously, it makes you a better person if you put yourself, if you can't grow in comfortable spots.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's if you go back and kind of reflect back onto your time in high school, what do you think? Because one of the reasons we're showing up here in this space is to give information to girls in sport, coaches and caretakers, so they can have more challenging conversations and move forward. What do you think that we could be doing from a cultural perspective for girls in sport, particularly in high school, to allow them to understand the benefits of practicing yoga, particularly at that high school age? So not something that could be available to them down the line when they're 25 or 45, but understanding the value of practicing yoga in high school. I guess maybe I should ask, do you think it's important for girls to practice yoga in high school?
Totally. High school is, again, a constant state of uncomfortability. You're going through so many changes. You don't know, you want to fit in, but you want to be yourself. And yoga is one of those places that you can be uncomfortable, and it allows, but everyone's uncomfortable. So that's what makes it comfortable, because no one quite knows what they're doing, especially if you've never done it before. And being in that state of meditation and focusing, allowing your inner dialogue to be quiet and to allow yourself to be in that uncomfortable situation is so important, because it'll make you grow as a person. It'll make you that class presentation. Oh, not a big deal. I just had to try and touch my toes across the room in front of all of my colleagues and all of my classmates and things like that, you put yourself in the uncomfortable, so you are uncomfortable going forward. So I think yoga is so important too, because it does help with that mental health part as well. Allowing yourself to be in the moment and in the practice, to release all those anxieties and all of those uncomfortabilities that you have in your outside world is so important, because it'll help you grow as a person and become more confident within yourself, because you're allowing yourself that time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So is there something, do you think we could be doing better to give more access to girls in high school, to access to the benefits of yoga?
Oh yeah, I definitely think that coaches can see, because they know how important stretching is, but bringing in those elements of yoga and like having those conversations about, yes, we all can touch our toes, but would anyone like to actually do it together as a group? Because even I remember in high school for cross country, after a big run, everyone stretches together, and even that can be considered as a mini yoga flow. But bringing them into that space and bringing them in, saying, this is your time to reflect on yourself, allow yourself this space, and having those resources, such as going online and just looking up a few videos and and it shows there's so many things on YouTube, let alone 20-minute flows that you can take, and you can even use it for yourself. Do it for yourself first and see how different you feel as a coach. You'll want that for your players or your runners or whatever you see fit, because girls might not have those resources or might not know about the resources. And yoga is so important.
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I'm glad you brought up the conversation of YouTube. And this has been a rethink for me, because I kind of used to be like, downplay the YouTube, or mostly because I have no idea what it is. And see, that's me like making a decision about something before I know. But I think you're right. I think YouTube's a really good resource. And I actually know several programs that are using resource at practice now, using YouTube as a resource during their practices. And I thought, you know what, that's brilliant. They're plugging this in, these 20-minute programs, and they're giving exposure to girls in sport, to practice, right? So I think you're exactly right. And that is that's like low scale in, like everybody has access to YouTube, right? So almost anybody could do that. And even if once a week we're encouraging coaches, and we're here to talk about girls in sport, but obviously there's benefit to boys in sport also. So I think that that's right. I think that's a really good way to do that, just to give them easier access, because not everybody has, the availability to bring in a specific yoga coach. That's obviously a luxury that, some school districts will never have the opportunity to have. So I think that's really good. What's your thought specifically about breath work and yoga? Do you practice breath work? Is it valuable to you?
It's everything. That's one of the bases that I've learned is breath is life. How your pace of your life is going is how fast you're breathing. So if you are constantly in that shallow, anxious breath, you're moving, you're fast, and that will start picking up within your health. And even I've learned, I'm very lucky that I have the resources that I've seen that happen on myself. I was a very shallow, light breather, and that constantly affected my sleep. It affected my attitude. It affected my mood. It affected my way I was eating. But once you take the time to clear your head, deep breath work, all three parts, lower stomach, ribs, upper chest, full deep breaths, it's crazy how fast it affects your fight and flight. It affects your memory. It affects the way of your recovery. So just that deep mental breath work, just 4 deep breaths at the hold at the top does wonders. And it's maybe 2 minutes of your day before, when you wake up, before you go to bed, if you're at lunch by yourself, it will do wonders for your breathing. And then your mind will just all of a sudden start clearing and your body will start reacting. And the more you do it, the better you feel. So just start from there. Just a quick 2 minutes of just deep breathing goes such a long way.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, this has been so incredible to sit down, to listen to you reignite why I love being a certified yoga instructor. Because sometimes, life can kind of get in your way, right?
Totally.
Get maybe, but to hear somebody like you reshare their thoughts and their passion, you can just feel it. And I'm so thankful that you took the time out of your day and your schedule and all that you have going on to be here to have this conversation. I do want to start the cool down, but before we do that, I want to ask you one more question. Do you think, because I get this a lot, and do you think yoga is sport?
I do. It's crazy. We've had professional athletes at our studio. We've had people with the highest athletic ability come in and be like, this is harder than some of my hardest workouts.
Yeah,
and that's when you know, and the validation, like it is a sport. It's a mental sport and a physical sport. So no matter what,
I agree.
I think it's a sport.
I'm agreeing with you. So when people kind of downplay it, I think that's why we don't see as much influence of yoga in high school athletics as people don't see the value of it, particularly as a sport. What I loved and the reason I really wanted to have you on was you're a remarkable athlete. You're a remarkable person, like just a human, like you're a remarkable human. But it's true. But to see you go from this passionate basketball player and to have his rethink and do a sport like cross country after a spinal fusion, which was hard, and then embrace being, the student manager for the team at DePaul with your sister, who, by the way, they had a couple huge years down there too. I was able to follow that and watch some of that. So that was super fun. But then to go and take your passion for sport and do something like yoga, where you're not only doing this for your own physical and mental well-being, but you can tell you want to give this to other people. That really, it is so amazing on so many levels. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because I want people to know that sport is for everybody, even somebody who thinks that after a spinal fusion that their life in sport is over. You're here to show people that it's not. That's just the beginning. That was just the beginning of your story.
Totally. And thank you for saying all those such nice things.
That's also true. All right, let's get us cooled down here. What am I going to start with? Oh, well, some of these are like, what's your favorite way to calm your mind and body?
Deep breathing, baby. Deep breathing.
There you go. All right. If you were still a high school or a collegiate athlete and you're on a bus, what would be a food that you wished was portable enough to eat after competition on a bus?
Oh, that's tough. Actually, since I've seen this a lot, like with my traveling with my sister, she would always say that she just wanted something with high protein intake, but almost like just like protein shakes that are more available and not taste like chalk.
There you go. I love it. Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So I would say that one.
Awesome. If talent were not an issue, what sport would you love to excel in?
Golf.
Oh, how fun is that?
Mm-hmm. Well, with my spinal fusion, I have never been able to truly get into the sport. So I think it's because I can't that I want to do it even more.
Completely. Yeah, I love that. Best or worst advice a coach ever gave you?
Oh, push through an injury.
That's so bad, right? I hope it's
So
the
bad.
worst, right?
Yeah, no,
Isn't
that
the
one's the worst.
Okay.
And then the other one, and it's kind of similar, would be mind over matter, just like allow your mental strength to allow you through it, but pushing through an injury, nah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, what is that? That's so old school, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was so yesterday. Um, all right. What do you want to leave for our audience? So if you were going to give advice to your 16-year-old self, what would it be?
It's okay to be uncomfortable in all these situations. Stay comfortable being uncomfortable.
I think that's really good. That is good wisdom. So Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to sit down and chat with you. I'm so excited to see how your puppy yoga program goes. I think it's going to be a huge hit. I'm sure you're going to do it multiple times. We'll make sure that we have the links to the yoga class and also the car dealership and where Kelly teaches yoga in the show notes. So make sure you guys check back for that. Also, don't forget to follow us, share our episodes, join us on Instagram at PEAC, Train Like a Girl. Take a minute to explore our website. And again, we're going to make sure we drop all the links to the show and everything Kelly talked about in the show notes. So make sure you guys check back later. And if you're feeling inspired, make sure you share our episodes with a